Hi, I'm Dennis, and welcome to the second part of my video, C# Fundamental Tutorial. For you to get a clear picture of what we're doing here, I would advise you to go and watch the first video before proceeding. So, let's go write some code. Now, what we previously did in the last video, a total recap of what we did in the past video. We had to create an integer type, which we displayed in the console project. We did that for string as well, for Boolean objects, and then we ended up at floating. So now on this video, we will be creating the char type, which you see here, the date time, dynamic, and of course nullable types. These are things that you'll be meeting from time to time as you code, as you start writing code. So it's very obvious that you know them basically, so you don't drift into problems. Okay, all right, okay. To keep things simple, I have written some sort of codes for the char type, which we are going to be demonstrating right now. I mean that one, that's the char type. Bring that out, and I'll copy that. That's a complete methods which I've done previously. I'll place them here. Close that. Now, for you to understand more about the char, before we dip into codes, the char is nothing but a single character with a single quote in front and back of it. Okay, a char itself can be of a collection that it's a collection that exists in a string. This is a string. What you see here is a string, and each letter you see in here is a char. So, and that makes it a collection of char. Okay, so for each char here in a string, can be seen for each character here can be seen in a string as a collection of char. Okay, all right. So to keep things simple, I wrote this code. I created a char type, and I called initials with my initials. D stand for Dennis, and then I wrote them out. So I'm going to comment that out for you to see how I was able to display the single char of my name. So let's put that actually here and display that. That's a type basic. Okay, and run that. There you go. Char variable output, Mr. D, type is system.char. Okay, so it's a char type. So now to grab or dig down a little bit more further, let's actually increment that, and I'll show you the example of the string. Now, every single character you see in here makes up a collection of a char. So the collection of a char it makes up a string. Okay, when you have a group of char put together, it makes up a string. Okay, so a char is nothing less than a collection inside a string. Okay, and now I'm going to loop through the name identifier here to get each single char out of it, which is I'm going to get D, E, N, N, I, S as a single char and write them on the console. So let's actually run this again. There you go. I'll bring that down. You see it? We said char variable output. Yes, fine. And we got the first character of the char, which we had in there, which happens to be Dennis, which happens to be D, sorry, is taken. The second character is E, is a char, and third character is N, a char, fourth character is N, fifth character, and so on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have about 6 characters in here. So, and it ends up with S. So it's obvious now that you know what a char is, and you will come across char from time to time, as long as you stick to programming. Okay, now let's see what's left over. Now we're going straight to date time. To keep this simple again, I have done something before, which I made. I'm going to copy that. What? No, not floating. I'm going to copy the date time and put it here. So in order for me not to write all codes from the beginning, I'm going to uncomment the ones that I won't want for now, that I don't want to explain. Get that out and that out. Okay, and let that be out. Okay, now this is the date time. See that? This is the date time type, which I explained previously. Here, that's the date type. The date time is basically used for dates and time and etc. But if you want to go around with time alone, I would advise you to use time span. Okay, but we're not discussing time here right now. We're talking about date time. So if it's only time alone, then use the time span. For now the date time, it's no other thing like the day-to-day things you see. For example, I have here on my window, I'm having a date and a time right in there. So these things are what you see from your day-to-day experience. So, and it's included in software programming, in coding. So if you want to take out times, for example, in this case, I set up a date of birth, where I declared a date time and assigned it, because the date time has a constructor that takes arguments. In this case, I placed my date of year, the year I was born, the month I was born, the day I was born, the hour I was born, the minute before, and the minute before and the seconds at the end. Okay, and this is going to print out the exact time, and what this will look like actually when it's printed out, it's going to look like basically 11th, 12th, and then if I get this right, 1974, and then the blank space, and what comes is 14, something like that, and then 20, and something like that, and then 55. Now I'm going to run this. Before I run that, I have to bring the date time in front of it. Actually comment the set chart out of it. So when I run this, look at that. As explained earlier, what's it again? As explained earlier, what I get date of birth 11/12/1974, exactly what you see here. 14/20/55, exactly what you see here, because I equally initialize it at the beginning, giving the date time a value. So I gave it a value and said, date time, I want to give you this value. That is the value I'm giving you. As I'm giving you a year, I'm giving you the year, I'm giving you the month and the day, as well as the hour, minute, and seconds. To see that properly, let me stop that. I'll show you what it means. It means date time. Let me show you again. dt is equals to new date time. Now it carries an empty constructor, okay, without a parameter. It takes another constructor with just a year, a month, and a day. And then if you deep folder, you have a year, a month, a day, no calendar. You can give him the type of calendar he wants, and so on and so forth. The same thing applies here. The one we're using right now is that one here: month, day, hour, minute, and seconds. Okay, you can just play around with the date time. There's a lot more in the date time. You can even change the culture of a date time. Okay, all right. So let me dig a little bit more further, tell you more about initialized without a value. So a date time that is being initialized without a value. What happens when you initialize a date time without a value? No other than having nothing. You get a special date minimum value of 01 01 0001. So now that's not a meaningful date. So look at that, exactly what I meant. 0101 0001 and some kind of like time behind it. So, and this is not a meaningful date. If you will be working with date time from time to time, and there are some occasions where you can't display such dates to a user. It doesn't make any sense. So why display something like that? So, and then the datetime has a method. Once it's not a method, actually, if it's not assigned, just go ahead and take and get the minimum value and assign it to it, which in this case, the minimum value of the datetime was set on that, on that, like 01010001. So, if you're working with datetime, I advise you to always give it a default value. And in my case, what I did, I went further to give it a default value in this case. Let me get that properly. I said, now I deep further and said, okay, you know what? If the date time value 1 has a minimum value, please give it the actual date and time. So meaning I'm going to be given the exact time right now at this stage when it runs. So let's run this again. Look at that. I went in and said, if you are minimum value, please, let me move that this way. Then you go in and assign the present date and time. And what it did is 0807 2018 13/20/46. It's equally assigned to the present date is equally assigned to the date time value. Okay, and this you would need in the future, because you can't just give this to a user. The user will get confused and like, I believe most of you have not seen this date. I mean, you want to turn the time back, so it doesn't make sense actually. So that's the point. The point here is you to be able to understand date time and when to assign to a date time. I mean, obviously it's better to assign something to a date time. Do not, I repeat, do not give a date time with no 01010001. That it's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. Given something like that, I've worked with some of companies when I've written projects, contracts with companies. I drift into your product and I'm trying to work on that, and then you start, and then when you start and you see something like this, you know, so it's not user friendly. It's taking people back to ages, is backward. That is not programming. It's something stupid. I'm sorry. But for most of the companies that still have them in there, which I'll advise you, look into your date time before you let them out. If it's not assigned, then just probably give it date time now. Okay, just let it have the actual date. But if it has anything to do with validation, validation means dates, birth and etc. And then maybe just pick a range and say, okay, anything between 1980, no more, no less. And then they just go back and say, okay, and set it to 1980. And that's just it. All right. Okay. That will now bring us to the next point. Then you want to know more about the minimum value of a date time. The date time itself actually is having a struct which you can use to get the minimum value, which I did here. I'm going to run this so you know the minimum value, which I've showed you before, which is same as that above, which is not set. It's not, and it's not set, and then you just get a minimum value. And then if you equally want to know the maximum value, you can do that as well, which I did here, which is date.max, maximum value. When I run that, you see the maximum value is set here. And to be honest with you, please do not give your start projects on a date time with the maximum value, but just do it sensibly. Let it be something that someone can take, and not something someone will look at and say, that doesn't make sense. All right, which will bring us to the next point. Our next point of view will now be the dynamic. Yes, that is my main part. To keep things simple, I've written the code on dynamic already. I'll take that and paste it in there. Yeah, now let me get this out. Okay. The dynamic type is nonetheless an object. Okay. This is right there, dynamic. Dynamic was actually introduced in Framework 4.0, I think. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. It came up Framework 4.0. Yes, I'm right. So when it came out, I tend to play around with it and try to understand what it does. But in my own point of view, a dynamic is nothing less than an object. An object is what we did in the first place. I'm just going to scroll back. This is the object where we assign anything to an object. So a dynamic, it's just in the form of an object, but a little bit more sensible in the fact that you can sometimes create an object out of it. You know, like say dynamic is equals to a new dynamic where I give a name, age, and city, and the dynamic itself will definitely assign this to it, and I can hook up to these objects with their name, with their tag, the way I tag them in there, like getting the name, age, city, and getting the type as well. So, but the main thing is that the dynamic itself will recognize that I have set a name and age and city in there. So if you have been working with dictionary, you will be able to understand the fact about dynamic. Dynamic is nothing less than a dictionary. I must confess, it's just almost the same thing. I mean, it walks behind like a dictionary kind of thing. So first of all, let me comment that out, and I will run this again for you to see the first code of the dynamic itself. But let me add the dynamic kind of thing here. Set dynamic. All right, run that. Now look at that dynamic variable output. A value is a dynamic. Okay, value a dynamic, and it's of type string. So if you recognize in the first place what we did, let me bring that again. What we did is I assigned a string to a dynamic type, and then I just previously read it out in the console. So let's grab a little bit more deeper. Let's uncomment that one. Now let's go to the object and display the name, age, and city of the object, which I did here, DC objects. I'm going to run that. There you go. Now I have a dynamic object variable, and this output is now, you see, I displayed as name, which I wrote previously. Here you can see Dennis Uroa, and age 43 matches the city, and look at the type. You can see that the type has been segmented and broken down into pieces. You go here now, you see the first one we assigned was a string, which is Dennis Uroa, and you see it as a string type. And then the second was an int, which you see here was 43, and the third was a string as well, finally, which happens to be Manchester. You see? So that's how we were able to break the dynamic. So that's all about dynamic. Let's go more further, and now let's come back to nullable types. Nullable types are sometimes needed in some range. I will explain why. To keep it simple, I have created kind of codes. The first code I created was nullable type for an integer. So yes, I know a lot of people might be thinking that integer only has must have a value. It has a value or it has no value. If it has a value, if it doesn't have a value, then it's 0. Okay, with default, actually, if you don't define an integer nullable, it tends to take the default value of 0. Okay, like literally 0, like that, 0. Okay, it's gonna take 0 on it. It's gonna hang 0 on that private on this variable. But let me show you a example of how it looks like. So that is an integer. I'm taking out, before I further, the best way to make a nullable form is when you put a question mark in front of your type. Okay, take note of that. So I'm going to take that out, and then let's see what happens if I run that, and you're going to see that there's 0 on it. So, but before doing that, let me just put the integer type in front of it, date, time, and set integer. Okay, set the nullable integer. Run that. Okay, look at that. I didn't assign any value to it, and you see the value that comes out as 0. So with default is 0. So there should be a situation where you don't want to save 0 in your database, or you don't want to give it forward to any application. You just want to give him a null, completely null. Null means nothing. I don't give you anything, nada. I'm not going to give you anything, gar niks. I'm not giving you nothing. So you just go. I give you it and you're nothing. Just go. You know. So and to do that, you have to define the nullable type until it's null, and for that reason, he's not going to assign anything to it, and it's going to throw an error. Nothing is assigned to null, so it's going to throw an error because it can't find the get type because it's nothing. There's nothing assigned to it. So, and then we'll read out the message, the error message that was written there. I'll run this. Now you see it? Nothing. So value is equals to nothing. Error object reference not set to an instance of an object, meaning it's null. When you get that, when you get this message, anytime you get this message, object reference not set to an instance of an object, then you know it's what is not. Okay? I'm going to close that now. Alright. So let's assume now I'm going to assign something to it for testing purpose. For 3. And run this again. There you go. Something is assigned to it, and it's an integer type. So just for a clear picture, for you to understand what a nullable type is. Now, let me grab a little bit more further and bring another nullable type that I might probably explain. It's more identical, but it's a Boolean type. So it's the same thing when I say a Boolean with default is always false, but there will be a situation where you don't want to give false or true or save them. You don't want to save true or false in your database or give them further. You just want to give nothing, nada, gar niks. So what you do is set again, put your question mark in front of it in your type, at the front of your type, and then it becomes nullable. Okay. In this case, let me do that again. I'll take that with default. It's going to be false. Let's go check that again. Let me put that actually there. To type that set nullable basic nullable Boolean. Sorry. Now run that. So with default is false. Now I don't want to give him false. I just want him to be null because I want to save null in my database. I don't want it to be true or false. I just want it to be null. So if I say I want you to be null, I will now put the question mark in front of my type, which defines it as a nullable type. And same thing will happen here. The way I read that, nullable type get type. The get type will never be found since it's null, and it's going to throw an exception. It's going to throw, yeah, it's basically going to throw an exception. Let me leave that way, right? There you go. It's a Boolean nullable variable output. Value is null. It's nothing. So it's almost the same thing. So that's just a perfect example of having a nullable type. So that brings us to the end of our second video, and I hope to see you on the second video. I hope to see you on the top video while we continue with the C# fundamental tutorials. God bless you. See you later.